To order the Netarts-Oceanside Sanitary District Board meeting for March. Regular Board of Directors meeting. First item is approval of the agenda. Motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Discussion. There's no discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yes, we have none, but Dan would like to introduce our new employee. Thank you.
Oh, this is Raymond Wyatt. He's our trainee operator. Welcome, thank you.
Welcome.
Appreciate you.
Was the pizza good?
It was.
Good. Okay. Public comments, none. Board questions, comments, and discussion. Is there anything that we need to cover under that section? If there is nothing, review of the minutes of February 20, 2025. A motion to, actually, I'll combine the two, the regular board meeting minutes and the workshop meeting minutes. Can I have a motion to accept both of those sets of minutes?
I so moved to accept them.
Second,
No.
discussion.
Seemed like an accurate reflection of the meeting to me.
Yeah, Aaron informed me that since technically the workshop was convened, that there became minutes even though it was immediately ended and to be rescheduled for earlier today. So all in favor of accepting the minutes of both the regular board meeting and the workshop meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Financial statements for review of all funds. Motion to accept.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second.
discussion. On page 3, are there any rumors of any new connections coming up, or we haven't heard anything at all?
We got a couple of buildings that maybe they sent out bills for us.
Okay, great.
Were those the two in the Capes?
And then we did Cougar Ridge recently, 2 or 3 in Cougar Ridge.
There'll be a couple coming for the Capes also. I just did some fire letters for 2 more lots.
Okay.
Great. Any additional comments on the financial report statements? If there are none, all in favor, are you almost done? Or, okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next item is board audit and accounts payable.
Can you just remind me for a second what the 4,626.57 plant PS flow meter replacement part was?
That was for the magnetic flow meter for the plant pump station down here that went up several months ago. That invoice might have been for the total installation. That's the installation.
Okay.
So for the parts, the installation invoice and stuff.
All right.
If there's no further comments, we'll move on with the district review. Excuse me?
Well, me already, I mean. The treatment plant's running really well. As you can see, we had a PSS of 0 for last month. And we've got water out cleaner. Probably put out our faucets, but on the collections, the Netarts Water District still has not addressed the main issue. We did receive a letter that they're increasing our rates to regular rates, even though the pump station, we don't do very water. The original request was because how they were charging it for water, taking water out of the hydrants. They consider the matter closed without addressing this. I urge the board that we must get an intergovernmental agreement for any cost, future cost it's gonna take to use their water and open their hydrants to fill the jet truck to clean. Some reason it started over that, but they didn't end it at that.
Well, I didn't even discuss that with Mr. Vincent. It was very brief. And then I followed it up with the email that's attached to the letter at the back of it. And it was very general, just let's get together and talk about it, which would have included the issue that Dan's has just brought up. But that was not discussed that evening before their meeting. It was just, let's get back together again. And I followed it up and then eventually came back with the letter. So we don't have any further information. I don't know. I'm not sure as to the best way to proceed. They obviously don't like to talk to us in person. They'd rather do it through correspondence after their board sits down and discusses the matter. So, I need to put a lot of work into an intergovernmental agreement and then have them say, no, we disagree. So I don't know,
I don't believe they have a choice.
well,
They can't legally charge us for water without an agreement. I believe that you're the same way.
yeah,
They charge you for your fire hydrants to use fire hydrants.
They do for training and things like that. For fires, it somehow goes into the county and they recover it through insurance, but they do have a new general manager named Justin who just started. He seems very level-headed. I was dealing with some hydrant issues with him. So it might be worth maybe having a meeting with you and Justin.
The problem is what they,
I just don't think they understand what we're asking.
well, the policy that they,
well, we haven't really officially asked that as part of this effort.
the policy that they use, their policy to charge us for is for a water tap. And every time they're considering, so when you do a water tap, you're setting the meter, you're tapping the line, the person pays the $50 bill.
Yep.
I don't know if they're using that policy to what Debbie has. Their office manager told me every time they have to open it and close it, that's $50. That's considered a tap. That's not what it states in their own policy that they marked and highlighted and sent to me. So they're using that, they consider, doesn't say that in the policy, they're interpreting that every time they have to open the hydrant, that's considered a tap.
Right.
So if we have to fill up 4 times, $50 each, it's $200. For water that probably costs $3 to put in the trunk. So, I wanted to challenge the verbiage in their policy on how they want to use it to charge it. And they're not telling us, is it every time? Is it one time that we start using it for that day? Or is it every time? And technically, if they're gonna charge you for water, legally, they have to put a water meter on the hydrant. Because they're selling you water at so much per gallon or so much per gallon.
Correct.
They told me on that case, they didn't have any more to place. So they couldn't do it. So they wanted us to estimate how much water. So
About 5 gallons.
that gives them the ability to charge us whatever they want, whenever. That's how I look at it. So I think we
This-
need,
Yeah, this letter seemed a bit defensive to me,
yeah,
and unnecessarily so.
I don't know why they took that because it was over us using water at the hydrant. That's what it was over. Which we already had permission to use the hydrant and get water for our cleaning.
So how do we approach them about negotiating an intergovernmental agreement? What does that look like? Do you talk to their manager and say, that's what we'd like to do?
I think since Jeff offered, him and I could meet with their manager and discuss that, because obviously the board is not going to have an exchange with us. And I'll tell them what we, find out what do you want, what's gonna be your standard fee, so I can budget accordingly. And
And also you need to check with your council about the need for intergovernmental agreements.
And is that
this is
something
nothing
that,
new. I mean, we have them with the county at a certain hour rate to use our camera band to inspect culverts and stuff like that. Intergov, we have one with the fire department for cost sharing for the,
I mean, apparently you do not understand that legally departments like ours must have agreements in order to charge each other. And we need to get started on that. And if,
we're merely a customer, is the way they wrote it.
I don't care what they think about that.
No, I understand.
but they were only addressing,
So they don't understand the legalities.
but John, they were only addressing the water meters at our pump stations and
I know.
treatment plants.
So what we,
Because that was never discussed, the other aspect, which had we had the opportunity to sit down with them, we would have brought that up. But they
So-
just,
we need to push this to getting them to the table.
Yes.
And that means we're going to have to, before we get lawyers involved, before we got ours involved, you talk to yours and investigate what it takes for agencies to bill each other like this. And once you get that understood, let us know what your position is and we'll take action on that. But if your lawyer says you need to sit down and negotiate an agreement, then let's get to it and then
Sure.
sit down.
totally agree. I just don't want to do the work of an intergovernmental agreement right now. And then who knows what,
No, we need to get on the same page about how
Right.
business is done between agencies, and it's a legal
Right.
requirement. So, and then if they just say no, then how do we force that? How do we leverage that? Go to their regulating agency? I mean, well, I guess we have to ask our lawyers.
we talk to our lawyers and
Yeah.
get advice from them about what
Normally,
to
we
do.
write up the IGA. What we did it with the fire department, we did it with the county, we write up the IGA, we send it to them for their review. And then they send it to their legal counsel, I assume, for that review. Negotiate out in a governmental agreement, but we have to have one.
Mhm.
I mean,
That's the point that we just are disagreeing on. So one,
Right.
because they're not even on the right issue. And two, even if it were the right issue, it's not the right procedure.
Right.
So we got to I want to know who the regulatory agency is because they need someone that they listen to saying, you need an agreement. You can't do business like this.
Can we use any water from the Oceanside water system?
well, currently Oceanside does not charge us for doing the same thing, but that's to take care of Oceanside and their water,
I know,
which is also.
but we have an agreement with them.
No, they've never charged us before. It's the same process. We call them, they tell us what hydrants either not to use or we can use. We
Yeah.
give them what area we're working in and what we anticipate, just so they know that they don't have a water leak. Basically, what it is a courtesy, so that the water district doesn't think they have a water leak in one of their pipes when they're missing, a few thousand gallons of water.
So can we use that as an example?
Well, that
No,
was
they
this-
don't care about that.
Okay, I already
They don't care
did.
about that.
I already did when I spoke to their office manager.
basically historically was it was a handshake
Yeah.
with,
And read
Yeah,
what,
I get that
read their
one.
letter.
Yeah.
They're not gonna do it just because Oceanside does it.
yeah,
That's not where their head is.
I'm just asking. I mean,
Well, no, I'm just saying.
This is an abnormal, this,
That,
this, there was never a handshake, they say in their letter, which you probably read, that there was a handshake between Mike Slipsider and I, and there wasn't. He came up, said, because I told him, I said, we're using a lot of water up here at the treatment plant, so he gave us what he called at the time was a governmental rate. So, and I assumed that was in their policy or their ordinance, they could do that. And he offered to, since we use no water at those pump stations, but we have to have it in case we need it for cleaning, to just make those half monthly fees. We don't use any gallons. And I said, well, instead of charging us for that, I'd go to the board and say, we won't charge you for your sewer down at your office, just like we don't charge the fire department for sewer.
Right.
And then you just don't charge us for those pump stations. He didn't want to do that because he said that they would lose too much money. Because they only have the one office and whatever the bill was, I don't remember what the bill was at that point in time. And that's how they set it up at their end. We never asked for anything and they turned down the free sewer versus, because I was only asking for pump station. That was it. And then that way they wouldn't have to pay a sewer. Never got to the board because they didn't agree. So I don't know how he came to the rates that they came to, but those were all, since there were no documents with it, that they did away with.
So the rate for the water we use here at the sewer plant, that's not under dispute at this point, is it?
The water we use, but the rate that we were getting the water at, so virtually what the water bills we were paying will double.
Okay.
I
So,
think-
so when we write an IGA, how's that work? We negotiate it between us and them verbally, and then we turn it over to our lawyers?
Generally, one party, which is usually us, when we're asking for the IGA, we write up a draft. Our attorneys write up a draft. We present it like we did with the fire department. They run it through their legal, back and forth, verbiage changes is usually what it is. It never has really anything to do with rates. And then, once the agreement, they agree to it, the board signs it, and we have the IGA. So we'll probably initiate it. I don't think they know how. I don't think they understand IGAs. I learned that when I was going to their water intertie meetings. They've never done anything like this before, either district. So I don't even know how that went, but I think we should initiate it and then lock it down until, tell them what we're willing to pay. And then see what they say from there. I'm mainly concerned about the cost for their labor costs, how they interpret a tap. Every time you open the hydrant that day and close it and reopen it, they're considering each one of those. a
Right.
tap.
So do we have the capability of opening the hydrant
Yeah,
ourselves?
we always open the hydrant.
Right, that's what I thought. So they're not involved.
No, they don't have to do it. She tried to tell me
Reading,
she at their office tried to tell me, well, we need them opened correctly. Well, I've been opening hydrants for 30 years. I think I got it down by now. So, but all of a sudden this year, we're not allowed to open their hydrants. We're not allowed to hook them or open.
I mean, aside from what the agreement's gonna be, I mean, we're negotiating against ourselves right now. We need to get them to the table so we can start talking about it.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I mean, I guess one way to do it would be to have an IGA drafted and then say, here, what do you think? And then have them figure out how do we respond to it. Or we say,
I think you're right. Have an initial meeting and tell them what our concerns are. And then,
well, it sounds like we've tried that.
well, you saw the response.
I know,
I think-
that's what I'm saying. We tried that already.
I have a pretty distinct relationship with Netarts Water, and I'm pretty sure I know who wrote this. And that person is not the person that should have written this. Let's just say it was not probably approved by the board. That's just my guess.
signed
Well, they all signed it.
They all signed it.
Stamped it. But anyway, I think that person is not necessarily the person that we should talk to. Maybe we should start with the new manager and kind of work our way. But
And
I'll be happy to set just a,
I think that would be fine, that
a coffee meeting at the fire station, just have Justin walk next door and Dan come down, and then at least we can have a face with the person, and I think this can be resolved at a lower level, then Justin can take it.
This feels like the same thing we've said we're going to do for the last 3 board meetings, or 4.
Well, he wasn't there. He just started.
But
So this would be a good.
put it off. Tell us next board,
Yeah.
meeting, next board. That's why it's taking so long to get this far.
Okay, I'm fine with doing it. I think it feels like we're gonna get the same response again. In fact, we need to know what our next move is.
Well, then, yeah,
And so I'm trying to find out.
then at least we'll have the contact guy of who's gonna be the one in between that and the board.
Somewhere there is a statute in the state. I think I know where to look. That says how special districts do business.
Yeah.
And that's what they're not aware of.
I think we could probably even go through SDAO and say, hey, can you mediate this for us?
Yeah. Fine. I think you say, call your lawyer about this before we call ours. And, scare them a little bit into paying attention or getting the right person to charge, but that's tactics. I'm
I'm
fine.
not using my approach. So, not having site guessing anymore, we'll just lay out, this is what, because I'm gonna require them to meter it, just like they did with these contractors, which they should have done for us, not have us responsible for estimating the gallons. That's all we can do is estimate. That's how you do it, you estimate, it, right?
Yep.
And so you have an idea of what you would put in an agreement, what you propose now.
Yeah.
So if you could be ready with that, I guess arrange a meeting to see if that'll work.
So I
Administrator,
would assume that would include the rates that they sent us in the letter. Because we cover everything that has to do with water and the Netarts Water District, not just a piece of it, or do you think it should be just a piece?
I think they're separate issues because one, we are a client with the water meters. Just like here, there's a water meter and their rates are their rates.
Okay,
Same thing with the pump station. This IGA is above and beyond a customer agreement as far as service goes.
okay.
This one, we have to nail down what they consider a tap and how much. They need to tell us what they're gonna charge us every time we go to use water. That's all they want out. So I'm gonna push back if they wanna, every time you open the hydrant and close it, it's considered a $50 tap. I'm not gonna agree to that. That's not what their own policy states. So anyway, we can go meet with them, but tell them that, this is what I want in the IGA and we'll see what they say.
You can always come to the station and open
Yeah,
our
come down.
hydrant.
It's kind of neutral ground doing it that way too.
Yeah, right. It's, you're gonna bring him in. You're the superintendent. He's a member of the board.
It'll be fine. Everything's fine.
You're a member of the water board?
No, our
Our
board.
board, but
Yeah.
I'm just
Oh,
doing my
yeah.
neighborly duties.
All right. Look forward to
Okay.
this being on the agenda again next month.
Okay, so
Okay, so, the plan is that, you and Jeff would try to meet with this new
the
employee
manager, yeah.
and, try to discuss the matter. Okay, and you're gonna double check and see
I'll figure it out.
what the, nature of intergovernmental agreements between special districts should be. Or,
I can do that.
And my plan is not to challenge their letter about the rates or
No, we just need
stations.
the need for the way to do business.
Yeah.
They want.
Almost 100% certain that Justin doesn't even know this letter exists. So,
all right,
only because I met with somebody today that was like, but anyway,
Number two,
it's our lives,
the
right?
pump stations, I did receive, yesterday, the estimate for installing the new generator at the, Oceanside pump station, and it's $4,344. With the caveat, about the tariffs, and they couldn't hold that price until actually got all the parts, and, because there are things I'm gonna have to supply, which is metal stuff.
Do we have that?
No,
Okay,
No, I just, they can make you a copy of it.
no, it's okay. I was just looking for it.
Yeah, I already got that. I got this after it would already be. I just want the board to know that much is moved. The plan is to install the control panel first. They're still waiting for a schedule back from Xylem for the startup. So we're gonna do the panel first, and then we'll do the generator plan. We can't have both pieces of equipment out at that pump station. So I don't have the price on that yet until we get the schedule from Xylem for the startup. So I still have on here about the rocky tree clearing at the main pump station. Are we gonna forget this and take it off of here?
So Shannon Miller was gone for months. She's still gone. Kevin Hill with forestry has been promoted because of things that have happened within government. People leaving and whatnot. I can continue to push him, but I haven't received any replies back on this is what we think, or let's go look at it. I've sent pictures and I haven't received anything back. I'll be happy to continue pushing if you want.
Have had any more communications from Terrace, right?
I haven't.
No, but it's the last community club meeting where PUD did their presentation. Sitting on the other side of the table that I was at was them and Stu. She brought it up, and I think it was their engineer that said, "Oh, we would never not clean it up. We would always clean it up." And I thought, yeah, right. I didn't want to get
Casey.
in the middle of that between those two, but that was the gist of part of their conversation. So,
All right, number 2 on my list. I'll call Casey Fagan. He's the engineer at PUD. And I'll say, Casey, this is the situation. One, if this needs to be cleaned up, would you take care of it? And if not, we're gonna have to send you a letter that says, if there's a fire, we're gonna look to you guys
yeah,
for liability. I said, do with that information what you want. And I don't think we need to respond to them anymore. They haven't pressed the issue. We're reacting reasonably to regard to our exposure.
And at this point, this,
It's not more
yeah, I
general.
mean, I was gonna say, at this point, this stuff's been on the ground for a while, so it's on the way to being earthed.
Exactly.
yeah.
We'll buy you pizza tonight if you can take care of that.
You do what?
I told Jared we'd buy him pizza tonight if he'd take care of that.
They've had a chipper parked in front of my house for 3 days. Run over there.
So my final question on that, can I remove that off of this report?
I say take it off and then put it back on when it comes up. If I can. That's just me. I'm not.
I agree. So moved.
I'll agree.
Okay.
I mean, anybody else have any thoughts?
So the next one is Netarts pump station replacement doors. Did they get that done today? That's why.
Bowling finished, looks great.
Okay.
Hey,
So
Yay.
that's why I hit that on each of that stuff. The main pump station 10-foot roll-up door that is on order. There is no tariffs attached to that. There was an extra $3,500 to motorize it, which SDIS is gonna have us do it if they ever inspect that pump station anyway, like you're gonna do these out here. So I went ahead and ordered it. It's well within my ability, but if I waited past the 28th, there would have been a 25% tariff put on it. Because we had to use a 3-phase motor, so I just went ahead and ordered it. So to motorize that, to power that door is no $3,500. You already approved.
And I had talked to Dan, we had discussed that. In fact, I think part of the early on, I said, well, if you're gonna replace the door, how about you put the motor in it? So,
So, and then the main pump station had a catastrophic failure. If the board wants to see the pictures, I can bring them up on the screen.
No, I just had pizza. I'm good.
We're up to $186,000 of damage as of right now. So,
Dan, I'm probably jumping ahead, but SDIS has been notified for insurance loss.
So
Yeah.
SDIS, it's covered.
You had me, and it's covered.
So
And moving on.
it is fully covered. We practiced this the other day.
It's okay. We've all seen poop on a wall. before.
Yeah.
Well,
Think for yourself.
Okay, as a paramedic, I've seen lots of poop on the wall. I don't need to see.
trying to open it.
It's a father.
I like the car in the background.
Was.
Ooh.
You already signed his will.
Wow, this is,
It's okay, Dan. We try.
it's saying it started. It's what, it's confusing.
Maybe you need a hand to go.
Call a USB drive.
I'll call Debbie at the water district and we'll get it.
Okay, so this is the volute that the pump was mounted to. And as you can see, when it came off, you'll see 3 bolts are still there. The chunk of metal right here to the left is part of the flange of the case of the pump, is what that is. These bolts were the ones that didn't fail. The short one at the other end, the nut and the top of the stud broke off. We actually found that several feet in the wall over by the louvers going out.
So that's bad.
Yeah, here's a
Yeah.
clear view of in there.
Nice.
These are kind of loaded up backwards. This is the impeller on the pump. You'll see here that the impeller broke. You see this chunk is missing out of it.
Yeah,
There,
I do.
another chunk right down here.
Yeah.
So we found this over by the air compressor. If anybody was in that pump station when this went off, they would have, would have called 911. This is the pump on the floor after we picked it up and moved it. This is the volute that we had to pull off. So these are after the break and we were installing our new pump, our spare pump. These are the bolts on the bottom of the bracket that holds the piping from the pump and the wet well. I'm going to go through these kind of quick till we get to the other one. So here we're inspecting all the studs on everything when it comes to these pumps. So this is the bottom. This is what we had to pull off. So that bracket that you just saw with all the bolts, it sits on top of this elbow where these 2x4s are, and then it connects into where the orange gasket's at. So this is completely disassembled. This is us just bracing up with a 4x4 so the pipe doesn't fall when we pull the volute out. There's all hands on deck putting bolts in. This is when that's the Xylem pump guy. I'm monitoring him installing these studs. And we pulled them all in check. So if you look right here, this is a broken stud. This is what's called a torsional break. And the engineers have already taken these for the insurance company, and they have all these pictures. But you'll see right here, this is all that's been holding that pump down on there for at least 4 years. So when I believe when the tech put these together, he over tightened these and he bottomed out these studs in there and he twisted it. And that's what weakened it.
Dan, last time you talked about that it happened at some other places and the company was probably gonna have to take responsibility, but we're gonna let them work that out with SDIS, I assume.
So SDIS's lawyer sent Xylem a letter
There you go.
that notifying them that they will probably look for, recovering these expenses. And you can tell by the rust on these that, we found that some of these have been broke for a while.
Mhm.
Or at least cracked.
But tell them initially what happened when they got the letter. That's
Well, when the manager got the letter, they cut off, they weren't gonna do anything for the, main pump station. You have to remember, this thing broke down. You remember last month, I mean, we were still broke down and then they weren't gonna come, do anything with it because we don't have a crane that can pull these pumps. These pumps weigh, almost 2 tons. So we can't lift these pumps up. This is when the pump broke
So
off.
what did they say? What did they do? You're certain?
Well, I told the rep, I said, you really don't want to do this to us right now, considering it was your guy that did all 5 of the pumps. The same guy that put these together. So there could be further damage and it'll be catastrophic if we lose one of them in the wet well and it wipes it out and that pump station is no longer usable. That conveys all the wastewater for Netarts and Oceanside up to this treatment plant. The only place the water will go from there is over to the beach. And I said, that'll be on site. And then they sent the tech out the next day to help us change the pump out. This is the scar when the pump came loose, was breaking off. The impeller caught the edge of this wear. It's called a wear ring. And it scarred it pretty deep. The entire thing is junk. More broke. A lot of these pictures were for the insurance company that they wanted. You can see another one here that was twisted pretty bad.
Dan, have they gone through and checked the other ones that they installed? Have we,
They just installed all brand new ones today.
oh, okay,
They replaced all the studs.
and properly torqued and not over
Yeah, that's
torqued?
why I was down there. That's why when you see me in a work shirt, it's not a good thing. You can see the rust on this one as well, if you look up at it close. So the insurance's engineer firm, they took these to put them under a microscope and check, the metallurgy and all that stuff on. They just looked like they were over tightened. Here's where I took Jerry's advice, got a Ziploc bag, tagged it, bagged it, dated it. These are all the broken components. And then here's where we put them in the safe. And so it's all dated that these bolts for chain of custody. And when the engineer took it, I also got a receipt for chain of custody that he took the bolt.
Good.
This, what you're looking at now, is a soft start. When that pump came off, it dead shorted when it pinched the 460 volt wire. It went dead to ground. It blew out this soft start. The soft start is $9,000 for just that. And above it, and it took out this this contactor they cleaned up, but we're gonna have to replace this contactor, and it's about $800 or $900. That's
Is
about
this all on Xylem too? Did they,
it will be
FBIS.
because it's covered as part of the problem.
so
So the-
SDIS? Yeah.
So these 3 orange fuses you see up here, it blew out the last 2. This one didn't blow, but the other 2 did, which goes directly down to that soft start. And it also, as you see, if you follow these wires over, it goes to that contactor as well. We're operating on it, but it's gonna have to be replaced. So this damage right now is a little over 10,000 just to this panel. And probably another 2,000 to 4,000. This is pump information for the insurance company. So here's how Lincoln found it the night he showed up there, 9:30 at night. Because they called me at home and told me that the pump blew off the blue. I've never heard of that. So Brian had Lincoln send me some pictures. Here's where it blew off up top. It landed on that tool cart and then it hit the floor. But if you look right at the bottom next to the impeller, you'll see the concrete's broken. That's where one of these cables right here, these big black cables, that's where one of them hit, and that's what caused the dead short. It was still running when it hit the ground. There's another view of it on the ground after it blew off. You can see the whole inside was covered in sewer.
How far is that from where it was sitting? Like what kind of distance did it travel?
Oh, you go right.
So it's about a 5-foot drop.
Yeah.
This piece laying here on the ground, this actual pump portion, this alone weighs 2,800 pounds by itself. It weighs around 3,900, 3,850 with that balloon on it, but it broke off of that up here. We were lucky it didn't get the other pump across here or any of this piping, because it would have shut the pump station down completely. We found pieces of metal over against this far wall where this yellow air compressor sits. There was chunks of impeller, and there was pieces inside of this component. It was so much water pressure, it actually hit the ceiling 16 feet up and took out the ceiling lights, shorted them out. This is where it's over on the other side of the generator, and you can see how much the floor filled up and how much it sprayed sewer. It blew this breaker, and you can't really see it. This breaker right here, it popped this breaker as well. These are just pictures showing the insurance company. There's a chunk of the impeller that's across the other the other pump across the building. So if, like I said, if anything was in there, they would have been seriously damaged. They'd have been hurt. And that's the last. So anyway, that's the picture that I wanted to show the board. That's what it looked like the night we got there. The estimate to disinfect from ServPro is little over 15,000. The pump, the replacement pump, is 155,000. It's made to order, so it's being made in Sweden now, and we won't be charged for it until it actually gets to the U.S. So we'll be charged for it. They're estimating 16 to 18 weeks to actually get it. So we'll be in our next budget cycle, because if we had to pay for all this now, we have to pay for it. Insurance will reimburse us, but we can't put it back into our budget, so our budget will go negative. So there's not enough to cover it in all of it. We got to figure out, I already talked to Jerry earlier about this, what we need to do to try to come up with something to move that insurance money back into those line items that they come out of, so it doesn't give a false look on that we don't have any money in there. So
ServPro, do we have to approve this expense, or is it?
you don't have to, the board doesn't have to approve it. There's expenditure, but it's
Right.
all being reimbursed to us.
Okay.
As soon as we want it. So they'll cut us a check next week for the pump, but there's no need to do that. I'd have to put it in other revenue. I'm hoping to get that where we can budget it and receive it back in capital resource.
And in the meantime, we have a pair of pumps working.
As of today, all 4 pumps are up and running. We had to shut one set down completely because one of them was shaking and vibrating when it was running. So, in an abundance of caution, we shut them down. They did pull them. They found loose studs in those as well. So now all the studs have been replaced on all the other pumps. We have one more that we have to do, but that was our new pump that wasn't rebuilt by this tech. It was sent over to their shop.
So when we get the new pump, since we've got pumps down there, does the new pump become
The spare.
our spare? We're not going to install it.
No.
Because why would we?
No, we'll just have a brand new spare set.
Okay.
And these are, just so you know, they're interchangeable between the wet pit and dry pit. It doesn't matter. We just put a bracket on it. We can roll it for water, or we can pull it out, clean it up, and we can put it on the inside as well. So that they're universal. You have any questions on pump station?
When does Surf Pro come and do the cleanup?
They've been approved. We're just waiting now for their schedule.
And that has to happen before we do any of the other repairs.
Yeah, so the electrician, we have the price for changing out the lights, which is like 29, let's call it $3,000. But he's not gonna touch anything until the pump station make clean. So, I gotta find out how many of the lights that they're still going to, approve to pay for. 3 of them got knocked out completely. The other 6 weren't, but they've all been covered in sewer and they're not water rated. The replacements from the electrician are water rated. So if anything, even any pipe burst, water, whatever, the new light fixtures inside will be able to get wet.
right.
All of them, yeah. And our exit signs down there, I know this is at the bottom end of our report, but the exit signs no longer meet code because they no battery backup on them. Power goes out, so exits go out. So we'll be replacing those as well.
So the generator doesn't kick in and turn it back on.
Yeah, they do, but it doesn't meet code.
Yeah.
So the generator takes about 10 seconds or so.
Yeah.
So if you're in there, it'll go dark, you won't be able to see anything. And these exit signs that you see, they have to stay on.
Yeah. Okay.
They all have built-in batteries. So, number 4, we still don't have permission from all of the property owners for this, survey, for wetland survey. But the, engineers say that they have enough permission to go to that swale down there and get as far as they need to get the wetland study done. I have contacted MCC Controls. We had to set up an account with them for the HVAC system. So Aaron just did that this week. So that stuff will be on order. And of course, I asked about parents and talked, and they said, no, they have all the stuff in there. Unless it won't be affected for holding fines at $125.
Is there any way we can tie that into the pump house explosion?
Yeah.
Seems like that was a Xylem problem to me. Just guessing.
Well, we still have the issue of doing our Avalon pump station. How long are these increases, tariffs gonna be in effect, and is it gonna affect that project to the point that it won't be feasible to do this year? This next. So, I'm still worried about that. Right. Okay, number 7, you met the new operator, the new staff member. And that's all I have.
The board meeting is usually a lot lighter than this.
Oh, you did get the attachment. Oh, it shows the $3,500 for the motorized. That's an addition.
You also gave us
Questions on.
You also gave us this-
district report.
lovely coming statement on tariffs.
Yeah, that was the first one I got to put in that, but I'm getting them from everybody now. Of course, it was a copy of the pump order.
Old business, we've been over the Avalon Pump Station project. I don't think there's anything new there. The upgrade the hotels, I don't know, I guess we could strike that
Strike it, yeah.
for the future. And workshop planning, I think we can strike that also for now, as far as old business goes. New business, the draft budget calendar. Any questions on that?
So next 2 months, we start at 5 instead of 5:30.
And we already discussed the fact that the budget hearing and board meeting, I guess, will be on Wednesday as opposed to Thursday, June 19th. All right, main pump station failure and repair. I made this an item because I figured that there might be a couple more months of things to update, even though it's not technically anything that we'll be having to make decisions on, but we can just follow. So that was why I left that. Correspondence. We've already been over the letter from the Netarts Water District. And then we have the letter from Cummings on tariff pricing. Are there any other comments that any board member would like to make?
I'll just observe that the ratepayers of NOSD are paying for these tariffs, not some foreign government, just for the record.
There might be some Republican elected officials that would disagree with your analysis, but I certainly would not. No executive session. Have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
One second.
And all in favor?
Hi.
6 or 6.
Yeah, but you